Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute tactical genius of a leader who literally built an empire from scratch. Most emperors inherit these vast, wealthy kingdoms and massive treasuries. But today, we're looking at a man who started with absolutely nothing, yet completely defied the greatest superpowers of his time. And he did it using strategies that military academies are still studying today. To really wrap your head around his brilliance, you first have to look at the impossible David versus Goliath odds he faced. On one side, you've got a young man with just a handful of loyal friends, zero treasury, and absolutely no royal inheritance. On the other side, a sprawling super empire boasting 300,000 soldiers. It's the ultimate mismatch. And this was the brutal, everyday reality of 1650s India. The entire landscape was just swallowed up by giant superpowers. You had the ruthless Mughal Empire dominating the north, and the powerful Deccan sultanates controlling the south. And the local people caught in the middle? They had absolutely no voice, no freedom, and frankly, zero hope. They were completely subjected to whatever these occupying forces wanted. But then, a 16-year-old boy named Shivaji Maharaj looked up at those massive stone fortresses and decided, you know what? I'm going to rewrite history. His goal wasn't just hoarding wealth or your typical conquest. It was Swarajya, absolute self-rule and total freedom for his people. Act 1. The Teenage Rebel and the Mastermind. Let's see exactly how this visionary teenager kicked off an impossible rebellion. Shivaji didn't even wait to grow up to start changing the world. At just 16, back in 1646, he noticed the local Bijapur Sultanate was a bit distracted. So instead of charging in with some tiny, doomed army, he used brilliant diplomatic bluffing and local alliances to capture the highly strategic Torna fort without even fighting a major war. And it gets better. He actually used the hidden treasure he found inside to fund and build his very own brand new fortress, Rajgad. Now, obviously, the ruling sultanate wasn't just going to sit back and let this happen. In 1659, they decided to crush his rebellion by sending their absolute top general, Afzal Khan. And this guy was terrifying. We're talking about a literal 7-foot giant leading a massive army. So how exactly do you fight a 7-foot giant when meeting him in open battle is just guaranteed suicide? Well, you outsmarted him. Shivaji agreed to a quote-unquote peaceful one-on-one meeting in a tent at the foot of Pratapgarh Fort. But totally anticipating a trap, he showed up wearing hidden armor and a bagnak. These are concealed steel tiger claws strapped right to the palm of his hand. In a split-second embrace that turned into a sudden assassination attempt, Shivaji flipped the ambush around, took down the giant, and his hidden troops completely routed the leaderless enemy. Literally overnight, he became a legendary force. Act 2. Outsmarting the Mughals' superpower. Because, as you can guess, when you make that much noise, the really big players take notice. That epic victory caught the eye of the era's ultimate superpower, the furiously angry Mughal emperor Aurangzeb. And Aurangzeb, he didn't mess around. He sent his uncle, Shaista Khan, with a staggering 150,000 troops to occupy the city of Pune. Think about that number for a second. 150,000. You simply do not fight an occupying force that massive out in the open plains. No way. Instead, you use Ganimi Kava. This is the absolute art of guerrilla warfare. It's a tactic specifically designed to wear down and defeat much larger, heavily armed armies, using speed, surprise, and the local terrain. So, to deal with Shaista Khan, Shivaji didn't send an army. He sent a wedding party. Disguised as a festive procession, he and a few hundred soldiers just slipped right into the heavily guarded palace in the dead of night. In the chaotic raid that followed, Shivaji literally cut off Khan's fingers and vanished back into the darkness before the massive Mughal army even realized what had hit them. Incredible, right? But arguably, his most legendary tactical move, and maybe his greatest escape ever, happened in 1666. Shivaji found himself totally trapped, placed under strict house arrest by Emperor Aurangzeb in the distant city of Agra. He was trapped hundreds of miles away from his homeland, entirely surrounded by thousands of elite imperial guards. His escape plan here was just sheer psychological brilliance. First, he faked a severe illness. Then, claiming he was praying for his health, he started sending these massive, incredibly heavy baskets of sweets out of his compound every single day to be given to the poor. Now, day after day, the guards checked every single basket, but eventually, They just got incredibly bored of the repetitive routine and stopped looking. And that is exactly when Shivaji and his young son Sambhaji slipped inside those very baskets, bypassed the guards completely, and traveled hundreds of miles in disguise right back home, leaving the Mughal Empire completely humiliated. Act 3. The Visionary Sovereign and the Blue Frontier.
Because Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was way more than just a brilliant guerrilla tactician. He was a truly revolutionary state builder. While almost all the other local rulers of his time were obsessively focused on land battles and territorial borders, he looked outward. He watched the British, Portuguese, and Dutch ships starting to dominate trade routes, and he realized a massive geopolitical truth way ahead of his time. He who rules the sea rules the land. The ocean was the actual frontier for future power.
So he took immediate action. He built a formidable coastal navy completely from scratch. He constructed these monumental sea forts, like the famous Sindhu Durg, which literally rises right out of the powerful Arabian Sea to protect his coastlines. This unparalleled maritime vision is exactly why he earned the historical title of the Father of the Indian Navy. All of these impossible victories finally led to one massive defining moment. From being a teenage rebel in 1646 to the absolute mastermind who escaped Agra, on June 6, 1674, he was formally crowned as Chhatrapati, the supreme sovereign. He wasn't ruling as a vassal for some foreign empire anymore. He was ruling entirely independently for his own people. And he governed with the exact same structural genius that he used in war. He established the Pradhan, a highly disciplined council of 8 ministers, to ensure rapid, efficient governance. And economically, he immediately abolished the crushing, unjust taxes that had been suffocating the local population under the previous empires. His tactical military mind was really only matched by his ethical governance. He enforced a revolutionary, incredibly strict code of conduct across his new nation. We're talking absolute respect for women during military campaigns, the strict protection of farmers and their lands, and complete religious tolerance within his borders. An enduring legacy. By the time he passed away in 1680, Shivaji Maharaj had completely altered the history of the subcontinent. He proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that no empire is too big to challenge if you just have the right strategy. Remember, he started with practically nothing, and he left behind a staggering, highly fortified empire boasting over 300 forts and an incredibly powerful naval fleet. But honestly, beyond the stone walls and the ships, his incredible tactics, courage, and righteous cause ignited something so much bigger. He left behind this unstoppable spirit of freedom. And it was that very spirit and the tactical foundation he laid down that would eventually help break the back of colonial rule in the region long after he was gone. Which brings us to our final question for you to ponder today. We've just looked at his brilliant bluffing to capture early forts, his use of hidden tiger claws against a literal giant, disguising an army as a wedding procession, and, of course, escaping house arrest in a basket of sweets. Considering all of this, what do you think was his absolute greatest tactical masterpiece? Take that thought with you, and thank you so much for joining us for this explainer.